Today's guest is not only a medical expert, she is also a longtime friend. Dr. Barbara Taylor, or as many of you know, Menopause Taylor, has spent 20 years as a gynecologist and a surgeon before dedicating her life to educating women on all things menopause. She is smart, funny, and incredibly passionate about helping women understand their bodies, breaking down complex medical information to help you manage your menopause. And she's got a brand new ebook out called How to Win at Menopause. And in today's conversation, we're diving into it and we're even answering your top questions. So let's go. Welcome back, my dearest, sweetest, most intelligent, insightful, funny, witty, adorable human friend. Barbie, I just love you. I love you and I love our conversations off air. I love our conversations on air. I just,
Uh-huh.
you're such an amazing woman, and anybody who's met you through me has come back to me and told me so. What a gift you are, and
Aw.
just what a joy you are. So thank you for coming back. You're back for a reason, and I alluded to that in the introduction to you. You've got a new book out, and we're going to talk about that. But welcome, my sweet friend, and
Thank
thanks
you
for
so
staying
much,
up
and
late
you're
because I
you're
know
the
you're
reason
in
I'm
France.
here. You're the reason I do this.
Well,
You got me
well,
started.
let's talk about yesteryear, shall we? I mean, you were on my okay, so this was even before I had a podcast. You were on my
Exactly.
YouTube channel,
Yeah,
and we checked. It was July of 2016,
it was.
and it was the first conversation I had ever had publicly about
Yeah,
menopause.
yeah.
All the menopause talk I
Mhm.
hadn't seen. It wasn't out there. It wasn't out there to the extent that it is today.
Yeah,
Gratefully, there's so many
yeah,
leaders and champions in this space now. Hallelujah, praise the
yeah,
Lord.
yeah.
But I remember, and let's just play a little clip of when you and I had that chat from 2016. This is Dr. Barbie Taylor. And first of all, mwah, I adore this woman so. She is a longtime friend.
The biggest problem with menopause is that most of the resources are biased. So there's resources that encourage you to use hormones and resources that encourage you to use other things, but there are very few sources, hardly anything that just teaches you everything you need to know and empowers you to use whatever you want to use.
So that, Barbie, that was the beginning. And for
It was.
you, it was the beginning of something really powerful as well. And I want you to share that story because it's important.
Oh. Well, I was living in Cape Town, South Africa in January of 2016, well, the whole year, and you and I had a conversation in January just to catch up.
Mhm.
And I had been living in all these different countries, each for a year or more. And I was telling you how, yeah, I loved it. But I told you that my real passion was that I really wanted to teach women about menopause. And I said, I said, I can't find a platform where I can actually do it because physically I have severe arthritis and I can't
Mhm.
give seminars that were 2 days each.
Mhm.
And I said, "I physically just can't do the seminars." I said, "But that's really what I wanna do." And you said, "Oh my god, oh my god." And I thought something was wrong. And you said, "Barbie," you said, "You need a YouTube channel." And I said to you, I asked you, I said, "What's
What is
YouTube?"
that?
Never
I
heard
know.
of it.
I went through that too. Someone said that to me, and I said the very same thing. What is
Exactly.
that?
What is
Because
that?
we are
And you
not of
said,
that
here's how you
generation.
responded. You said, "Imagine being in your own home with
Mhm.
a camera, giving the lessons to women, and they can see them all over the world, wherever they are." And I said, "I can do that." And you said,
Mhm.
"Well, you just go right ahead and start making the lessons because you know I'm a total nerd." And you said, "You start making the lessons." You go in, and I'll get everybody set up for you. I'll make sure they contact you and you can get started on YouTube. And so you got me all set up. And I thought I was working with literally YouTube. And it was like 2 years before I realized they weren't YouTube. My first video came out in June on June 14th, 2016, and then I did that thing with you in July. So you see, it was very, very soon after I got started. Yeah.
It's kinda wild. It's so funny. I honestly, I had that person in my life who planted the seed and
Yeah.
literally opened up a whole new chapter for me to be a communicator and to be able to
Same.
offer content that speaks to me, and that's exactly what this did for you, and I feel that we're so blessed in that way, and yet we share such a similar story of What is that?
Yeah. Well, but
What does
the
that even
passion,
look like?
we both got a chance to live in and express our passion. And that,
Yes.
there's not much that's better than that, to live
Mm.
every day with your passion. And you and I both got to do that. And we are probably going to do it for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely. And well, and that is the wonderful blessing of what it is that we do and these platforms. And, whether YouTube is here in 10 years from now or it's something else,
Yep,
there's always going to be this way to speak directly to people. When I
exactly.
grew up and when you grew up, the
Mhm.
only way to do that was to be a broadcaster and get hired by an entity. And now you
Yeah.
don't need that entity anymore. You
Yeah.
just need a voice and a message, and there are platforms out there,
Yeah.
which I'm so grateful for.
Me
And I
too.
love the emerging space and spaces that are to come. I think it's so
Yeah.
neat. But what's been great is that you have provided true menopause education, and you are a self-described nerd, which I love. But your approach is very methodical.
Yeah.
You teach in a way where it's like, I'm signing up, I'm going to menopause you, right? and
Exactly.
and that's how you
Exactly.
do it. So explain the differences, because there are many
Yeah.
people out there, but
Yeah.
explain your technique and why that matters to you.
Well, the way education works is you have to have a foundation in order to use any information. So,
Mhm,
when you learn to read, you learn the alphabet first and then you learn how to read. And you couldn't do it the other way around. There's no way you could read if you didn't know that. And that's how education works. And we live in a time where people jump into like the latest study or something, but they don't have the alphabet with which to use what they read. And so what I do is I have a syllabus and I literally present everything in order so that I give you the very basic stuff. I just assume you know nothing. And I
mhm,
start there and I build on it. And, I make it fun. I make all these props and models and use toys and funny things so that you're laughing and learning. And I make it so that no matter how you learn, whether you're visual or auditory or kinesthetic, you are going to get it. And,
mhm.
and I have a lot of women who don't speak English as a first language. So my attitude is I want to cater to everybody. And so it's lesson upon lesson upon lesson in order to where you can connect all the dots. And people say to me all the time, they say, you know, I was formulating this question in my mind, and before I could even finish thinking about the question, you were answering it. And
Mm,
that I anticipate everything that you've heard, that you're wondering, that you might have experienced. And I make sure that I address all of it, but in an orderly, logical, connect the dots way. And it really, really makes all the difference in the world in terms of your ability to utilize information. So I want you to understand,
mhm.
remember, and be able to utilize information, all three. I don't want you
Yeah.
to say, "Well, I heard about it, but I can't remember what it was."
Mhm. Or I can't back it up with facts or data, which is
Exactly.
very, very important.
Yeah.
I'm so curious because we talked about when you started, which was 2016, and now we're in 2025.
Yeah.
What are some of the changes that you have seen in not only the information and the education, but also women's now knowledge
Yeah.
of menopause? What
Yeah.
what are you noticing in women who are
Yeah.
coming to you?
Well, in 2016 when I started, I was really like the only person who would even mention the word. And at the time, I mean, I was just doing everything in a very basic way. And when I first started doing consultations, I did them just by sending emails to women.
Mhm.
But guess what? Menopause was in my email address name and they'd all go to spam. So even the word menopause was like taboo, like don't even acknowledge it then. And now, of course, that kind of thing doesn't happen. And in
Wow.
addition to that, women have become much more aware of menopause. They've gotten to where they see how neglected it is,
Mhm.
they feel robbed, and I think the big thing is they're getting angry. And I want a menopause revolution. I want menopausal women to be able to get whatever they want and know how to decide what they want. I want them to have their menopause their way knowingly. And the system isn't in place for that. And so my approach is to teach the women about menopause themselves because I can't count on doctors doing this
Mm.
for them. And so I empower the woman to advocate for herself, to know how to have her conversations and how to get whatever she wants and to how to figure out what it is she wants. And I always say begin with the end in mind, which means first designate your goals. What do you want to accomplish? And then know which options are capable of accomplishing your goals, and then choose among those options and find what works for you. And that every woman has to do it that way, because no one can tell you what's going to work for you. But that has changed. Now women have a basic foundational understanding of what menopause is. Now they're starting to connect the dots and realize, oh my God, I've been going through this for 5 years. And so it was a topic of neglect and fear. And now it's a topic of recognition. And now the fear is starting to become how ridiculous. To think that there's something fearful about a hormone that your body produced and then it runs out, which is why you feel horrible. So now this idea of, wait a minute, I'm just replacing something I already had, and that, how can that be harmful? So the idea of fear is starting to dissipate.
Yes.
And I'm very happy about that. And all these people have come into the market, and it's making it something that everyone talks about now. We're having this moment where everyone's talking about it, which is super fantastic. And I love it.
Yeah, I do too. You see the menopausal warriors out there to
Yeah,
fight and push and get the message out and teach women to advocate for themselves, which you
exactly.
do very, very well. And we're going to talk in depth about your how to win at menopause. And you chose the key word win because you
Yeah,
make it like a chessboard,
it is. Yeah,
right? Pawns that there are moves that you have to make
exactly.
to win. The
Exactly.
counter to this, and I see this a lot and I hear it,
Mhm.
women who say, "What's the big deal?
Yeah,
Why such a,
yeah,
all this hoopla about
yeah,
menopause? My mom went through it. My
yeah,
grandma went through it. They didn't bitch, complain, talk, they just lived through it. What's all of this,
yeah,
craziness?"
yeah.
What say you about that?
Well, I say that it's one thing to have no complaints at all and literally feel fine. It's another thing to have the complaints but never mention them. And it's another thing to have no idea that in addition to your complaints, there are diseases that are fatal that will kill you slowly but surely, and you just didn't know that they were consequences of estrogen deficiency.
Mhm.
So again, begin with the end in mind. What is it you want to accomplish? Do you just want to act like nothing's happening? Fine, you can do that. You just need to know what that means. Do you just want to achieve alleviation of your symptoms? Fine, you can do that, but you're not going to avoid the diseases. Or do you want to prevent the 3 diseases that are
Mhm.
a consequence of estrogen deficiency, which are heart attack, osteoporosis, and Alzheimer's? You can do whatever you want. I mean, I tell all women, all the decisions are yours. I'm just a
Mhm.
teacher. I'm going to make sure you know the whole story, the whole truth. I'm going to make it so that you can choose whatever you want, but I'm going to make sure you know how to get it and how to have the conversation. And if you don't know how to do that, you might burn your bridges.
And we're going to talk about the whole truth and nothing but the truth right after this break as we
Okay.
dive into how to win at menopause. We are also, Barbie, you are so gracious. We're going to open this podcast up to viewer questions as
Yeah.
well, and we will allow room for that. So we have a very, very busy podcast with my friend, my darling, Menopause Taylor, and we're going to be back right after this. You've heard me talk a lot about what a fan I am of Ritual's products. Ritual, they make great supplements. I talked about stress relief the other day. I want to focus today on their Symbiotic Plus. Our gut health is critical for our mental health, our immunity, and of course, our digestion. And it's amazing how lacking we are in this area, especially because of our diets. They're not super supportive for our gut microbiome. That's why I love Ritual. It's a 3-in-1 powerhouse, essentially, of clinically studied pre, pro, and postbiotics. What's also amazing about this particular supplement is it's a delayed release capsule that helps it reach the colon, not the stomach. Why do you want it to go to the colon? Because that is an ideal place for probiotics to survive and grow. Just once a day, I take mine in the morning. You can take with food or without. It's mint scented, easy to go down. It's also amazingly good for bloat as well as gut and regularity support. It's vegan friendly, formulated without GMOs, no major allergens, animal products, shady fillers, or artificial colors, which is why I'm such a Ritual fan. It's also HSA and FSA eligible with a seamless checkout experience, so you can even save when you shop with pre-tax dollars. That's winning. Get your gut going. Support a balanced gut microbiome with Ritual's Symbiotic Plus. Get 25% off your first month at ritual.com/over50. That's ritual.com/over50 for 25% off your first month. Welcome back. We are having the menopause conversation, and we're going to teach you how to win at menopause. My friend, Dr. Barbie Taylor, is with us today, and she has a new, man, what I call a real easy read, Barbie. I
Yeah,
mean, this is a downloadable version. I read this in 30, 40 minutes prior
exactly.
to our podcast today. It is quick, it's concise, it's like the Cliff Notes version of menopause, but it arms you with information so that you can go and do deeper dives in areas where you feel you need to, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's for, women go to doctors and they have these complaints and they get shut down and they
Yes.
get told that, it's all in your head, or they get doors slammed in their face. And this is the guide
Mhm.
so that you have the retorts and you know exactly what to say for whatever comes up in order to get what you want. And literally how to everything. It's how to and bullet points.
Yeah, but it's also written with your very funny, direct sense of humor. I mean, there were words in there and language that just cracked me up, and I thought, only a postmenopausal woman would even speak this way. You are speaking my language. Do you understand that? I'm laughing as I'm reading this, and I'm like, "She's so right. You should be saying that."
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're great. Okay, so let's just kinda cut to the quick, and in the beginning, you're
Yeah.
talking about, let's see, Barbie, let me put my glasses on because, things aren't
Okay.
as they used to be. Okay, so the game, rules and roles, how you ended up knowing too little about menopause, what you need to know, and how to get a complete, unbiased education.
Exactly. Exactly. And see, this is women have been terrorized about menopause.
Mhm,
I mean, they've been, they've been told to just get over it,
mhm.
and they've been told that there's nothing they can do about it, and so they're afraid. And so this is like, how did that happen? How
Yeah.
did we get to 2025 and women are afraid to talk about a hormone deficiency?
Mm,
And it's because of one study 23 years ago that scared everybody, and fear is the most powerful emotion on earth, and it makes brains go dead. And
mm,
so now the common knowledge, common misknowledge is that, menopause doesn't exist, or if it does, you're supposed to just rough it,
mhm.
put yourself through it, and you're supposed to just live with a hormone deficiency for the rest of your life, and that should be okay. Well, if that's what you want, fine. But if that's not
Mhm.
what you want, you should have an avenue or as many avenues as you want to do something about it. So I want women to understand they're not alone. I mean, most women who get this education think, "Gosh, I knew nothing," and it's like, well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, we've heard this time and time again, and people who are out there, doctors who, like you, went from the OB-GYN space to full-on midlife care, menopausal
Yeah.
care, they've all said, you had 1 day of menopause training in medical school. What
Yes.
a crying shame.
It's horrible. It's
Yeah, it
horrible.
is. It's horrible. So
Yeah.
if that's what your doctor
Yeah.
gets and knows, and really the focus is on your reproductive years and birthing
Yeah.
babies, there's
Yeah.
not going to be a lot of
Exactly.
education, funding, knowledge, or
Exactly.
help in this space. And that's why a lot of you practitioners have broken camp and you kind of went to the other side.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
practiced in the largest medical center in the world, and there were 150 OB-GYNs,
Hmm.
and there was not a single menopause specialist. There was not a single menopause clinic, and I was the only physician who educated my patients about menopause. And I made everyone spend an hour with me at age 40, literally. And I started the education, and I always done my own handouts and stuff. And I would just every year add to it. And my patients were the only ones who had a
Mm.
clue.
And you were an anomaly, Barbie. I remember your practice, and it was through you that I found my uh, doctor to bring styles into
Yeah,
this world.
because
But
I was retiring.
you were retiring, but
Yeah,
but your practice was unique, and you put
yeah,
in that level of effort and
yeah.
care at a time when nobody did, because
I
insurance companies are dictating and mandating
Yeah,
how much time you get to spend with each patient, and
yeah,
there's a whole host of things. So you were a pioneer already at a time when this was still kind of in the dark ages.
Yeah.
So let's kind of bring it back out into the light, which is what you're doing.
Yep.
And with How to Win at Menopause, you're helping women effectively cut to the quick. Your second chapter is about spotting decoys and avoiding distractions. What do you mean by that?
Well, the thing is, it's the pitfalls. The system is full of pitfalls, and so
Mhm.
you bring up something with your doctor, and you say, I think I'm menopausal, and they'll say, well, it's natural. Well, it's not natural. It's common.
Mm,
I mean, half the world's population is going to spend half their lives there, but a hormone deficiency is not natural. It's the wrong word. Okay. There's nothing natural about it. And other animals don't have menopause, they die. So, no, it's not natural. And so that's one of the things I put in the book. It's like, if they say it's natural, you go, excuse me, hurricanes are natural too, but it doesn't mean you don't do anything to prevent their damage or fix them afterward. I mean,
mhm.
you still care about avoiding the issue if you can. And so it's all about coming up with responses that make your doctor literally cock their head and go, gosh, I've never thought about it that way, because they
Right.
haven't.
Mhm.
They have never thought about it. They are following guidelines that say do this, do that, but they're not menopause specialists and they don't know what's going on. And so it's important that you know how to have conversations to keep the conversation going and make sure that you don't get derailed.
Yeah, I love your comparison between natural and normal. And you and I have had private conversations about the fact that once upon a time in history, women didn't live for a very
Exactly.
long time. So our menopausal and postmenopausal years were very, very short.
Exactly.
Well, today that looks very different. And
Uh-huh.
what that is bringing about in our later years is what we're going to discuss, because
Yeah.
you say estrogen deficiency leads to a whole host of and can lead to a whole host of problems later on in life.
Yeah.
So it's not just about mitigating symptoms, it's
Exactly.
about being preemptive in
Exactly.
preventing disease. And we're going to talk to that in a bit. But in order to get there, we've got to find somebody who is going to hear
Yes.
us.
Yes.
Hear us. So you don't say finding your doctor, you say finding your coach. What do you mean?
Well, you know, here's what you need. At menopause, you need someone who you I teach my clients to listen to your body, and you need someone who will listen to you. Period.
Mhm.
So it's a menopause manager, it's whoever you want. But the key is if you have this education, you don't even have to rely on someone who says they know anything about menopause, whether or not it's
Mhm.
true. You just need someone who will be a scribe and write a prescription for whatever you want. And that's the difference in knowing enough to make your own decisions versus having to rely on managing your menopause someone else's way.
Mhm.
Because a lot of menopause quote specialists, they have one way of doing it. And if you don't
Yes.
fit that pattern, you're the oddity. Well, see,
Mhm.
women aren't robots. There is nothing that is going to work for all women. Nothing. And each woman has to find what will work for her. And that requires her to listen to her body. And your body doesn't lie. Your body does this fantastic job of talking to you about everything. The problem is humans aren't very good at listening to our own bodies. We're good at listening to each other. Okay.
Sure.
But our bodies do not lie when it comes to menopause. And your body will talk to you in three ways with regard to your menopausal needs. Number one, if you have enough estrogen, you will have zero symptoms of estrogen deficiency. Common sense. Number two, if you have enough estrogen, you will have stable lipid cholesterol labs year after year
Mhm.
after year. And the reason this is true is because estrogen is what keeps your heart arteries clear, and
Right?
estrogen deficiency is what puts you on the road to a heart attack.
Mm.
And the third way your body talks to you is through your bone. And if you have enough estrogen, you do not lose any bone. And if you don't have enough estrogen, you lose like crazy bone.
Mm.
Okay.
And for those people who are listening right now, you're showing you have this is a wonderful thing about your presentation and that you do. You have Barbie's toys. That's what I
I
call
have
them. Barbie's toys.
I am always surrounded by toys. I have something for everything. I can visually demonstrate just about anything. Most of
Right.
these things are things I made myself that are completely goofy, but they're
But
fun.
they're effective, and basically you were showing people blockages in the
Mhm.
arteries, you are
Mhm.
showing bones that, look like Swiss cheese, and then they look like barely hanging on shredded cheese. So,
Exactly.
yes, I mean, these are visual representations of
Yeah.
what estrogen deficiency does to our bodies. It's so
Exactly.
much more than a hot flash, and it's
Oh,
really important to get that point across.
yeah. You know how to think about it. Think about estrogen as being your fountain of youth.
Mm,
It kept you young on the inside and the outside.
Right.
And when you lose it, you will start aging rapidly on the inside and the outside. And we see the outside aging. We notice our dry skin and our wrinkles and our, hair loss and all the stuff that bothers us. But on the inside, the three organs that age rapidly are your heart, your bones, and your brain. And that's how we get to the heart attack, the osteoporosis, and the Alzheimer's. It's just rapid aging on the inside. But these diseases are silent until deadly. So you don't know that they're brewing along unless you know to check on them. And the guidelines tell the doctors, don't say a word.
Why?
They recommend bone density tests at 65.
It's too late.
They recommend the first one at age 65. Well, by then you will have lost 30 or 40% of your bone. Okay, so it's too late. So I implore people, I beg them. I have these young women coming to me and they got a bone density test because I begged them to. And they're shocked. They cannot believe it. And I go, well, that's your body talking to you. So it changes your life when you know that you're listening to your body and you know you're doing what your body wants. And there's no better confidence than that.
At what age do you recommend a bone density test?
As soon as you have the first sign of perimenopause. I don't care whether it's a hot flash or a bad night of sleep or you start feeling like your marriage is testy. I don't care whether work starts becoming more difficult and you're not keeping up with the young people in the office. Whatever it is that makes you say, gosh, life just isn't as smooth as it used to be. That is when perimenopause is beginning. But most women don't realize it until they've been there for 5 or 10 years. And that's the problem. It's a process. The process of menopause goes like this. This is my Play-Doh.
Okay, she's holding up a chart, everybody.
Yeah. Okay, so premenopause, you have tons of estrogen on board.
Right.
Perimenopause is a 2 to 10 year period of time when your estrogen is going. And then postmenopause is when it's gone. And that's where you're going to stay for the rest of your life. And the problem is these 2 to 10 years, nothing happens all at once. It's a little of this and a little of that and up and down. It's a hormone roller coaster. So some things come and go, and it's easy to miss it because you think, oh, well, I had some sleepless nights and now I'm okay. And then that happens again in another couple months. And it's a list of 22 symptoms hitting you irregularly off and on. And if you don't know what to look for, you're going to miss it.
Yeah. Let's talk about your fourth chapter, Calling Foul Play, responding to claims that estrogen is dangerous and will kill you. There is a lot of fear. I hear it. Women will come to me and will, start conversations about it. And some will say, well, I'm too young to start, or I'm, postmenopausal X number of years. My doctor says I'm too old to start, or I'm worried about this history in my family or whatever. How do you respond to that?
The logic isn't there. And the other thing is, you go through your premenopausal life with your body producing a bucket of estrogen. Perimenopause is when the bucket becomes a water bottle. And the dosages of estrogen and HRT for menopause are like drops. Well, so how can this be dangerous when this wasn't? And how can you have felt fantastic with this and you feel awful without this, but how can this be dangerous for you when that's all you're taking to compare to this? I mean, it's logic. I just teach common sense.
Yeah, I mean, when you do that and you hold up those comparisons, it kind of makes you scratch your head. And to your point, I mean, you've brought up, and I think probably the biggest fear for women is this link to breast cancer.
Yeah.
That higher estrogen is linked to breast cancer. So they worry that any amount that they, put on their skin in the form of a patch or a cream or, whatever you recommend, they just worry that that is going to spike their risk for breast cancer. Now, I mean, some people do have BRCA genes. Some people have, genetic predispositions. Are there workarounds, and what do you encourage that woman to do? Does she have any solution?
Well, the first thing to realize is that the idea that higher levels of estrogen cause breast cancer is a fallacy. The statistics are that the women at the highest risk of breast cancer are the women who've had the most menstrual cycles. The women who have the lowest risks for breast cancer are the women who've had the most pregnancies. Well, pregnancy 15 times this bucket. Okay.
Right.
So the women who are like the old lady who lived in the shoe and had so many children she didn't know what to do are the women with the lowest risk of breast cancer, but they have had the highest levels of estrogen for the longest periods of time.
Doesn't
It
make
doesn't.
sense.
The math doesn't work. Okay, so all this stuff that people have heard, it's not correct. It's just
Mhm.
terrorism. Fear sells. And breast cancer centers are the largest centers in all the medical. It makes tons of money.
Of course
And the
it does.
truth is that you're getting the wrong information. And I just make sure you have the accurate information, and then I will help you manage your menopause any way you want within your comfort zone. But I want you to know the truth,
Mm,
and I don't gain a thing by what anyone does. I just want you to
right.
know the whole truth and the whole story. And the problem is, if you start out with a supposed statement that is wrong, and you make all your decisions around the wrong statement, things aren't going to turn out well.
Mm.
So the first thing I do is correct misinformation, because I'm like, wait a minute, let's put this into perspective and see if you think that that's the case. And then if you say, well, I'm still afraid, then fine. Then we work with that. But the whole point is, let's not just pretend like this is the truth when it's not.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I get very rattled by erroneous statements, because they're
Yes.
everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yes, and to your point, they are fear-based, and we
Mhm.
have to eliminate fear in our decision making, and we have to search and seek and find people and find information. You have to be your own advocate, and you
You
have
absolutely
to
do.
you have to be a researcher, you have to be a reader, you
Mhm.
have to take in this information, and don't treat your doctor like God, and not one word fits all, and that's the point of these conversations. We've got a few other, chapters to talk about in your fabulous little read here, and then we're going to get to our viewer and listener questions. So, chapter 5, game strategies, how to choose options for your menopause. And, that's an interesting one, because now it seems like there's not only discussion, but even debate.
Oh
Well, it
gosh,
should be this way, or it should be that
yeah.
way, or I've heard this is the only way. So, what way is the way?
It's your way, any way you want.
Exactly.
It's your way. It's any way you want. And the key is to understand what each option can do and what each option cannot do. And this
Hmm.
goes back to knowing what you're trying to accomplish. If you say, okay, I want to prevent all the diseases with herbs, herbs can't prevent the diseases.
Hmm.
Okay. You just need to know what you're trying to accomplish. And this is critical for each woman to decide for herself. Nobody should be telling anyone else how to manage the menopause. Nobody.
Hmm.
And so when you learn what each option can and cannot do, it will make you limit your options to those things that can accomplish your goals, whatever they might be. And this is where the power comes in, when you know darn well what you want to do, and then you go find a provider who will work with what you want to do. And I think that finding the doctor or the practitioner, the provider, is the hardest part.
Hmm.
Um, and I literally in the book tell you how to shop for a doctor, and I liken it to speed dating, because it really is speed doctor shopping. I mean, the key is know what you want and then pose those 2 or 3 questions that are your deal breaker questions. And you pose the same short, sweet, open ended questions to every single
Hmm.
practitioner online, hopefully. You need 5 minutes to know whether or not this is a person you want to see again or not. And it's the same. If you know that you want to take HRT for the rest of your life, you'd say, what if I want to take HRT for the rest of my life? You're going to get 2 kinds of answers. Some
Hmm.
people are going to say, yes, that's what you do with all hormone replacement for all hormone deficiencies. And other people are going to say, oh no, I stop everyone at 60. Which one do you want to see again?
Hmm.
For every question you ask, there are going to be 2 ways of getting that answer, and you're going to avoid wasting a bunch of time
Yes.
starting a relationship with a doctor who would never have helped you manage your menopause your way.
Hmm.
And so again, it all comes from the education comes first, so that you have a clue about what you want, and then it's a matter of someone who will work with you in getting chiseling down to your sweet spot, basically.
And you're providing women with that list of questions.
I provide, when in consultations, I meet you where you are, and whatever you want, whatever it is you're trying to do, I will tell you exactly how to have the conversation. I literally tailor it specifically to whatever your situation is, because there isn't just one way of doing it. You have to
Mhm.
put the whole thing into the equation to know how to do it. A woman who's perimenopausal at 50 is going to have a very different conversation than a woman who's 65 and never took hormones. And a woman who has no medical problems is going to have a very different conversation than a woman who's had, say, breast cancer, but wants HRT. Every situation is different. So I'm literally going to make sure that we talk about you and your situation only, and we don't care about anybody else. This is all about you, and everything is about what you want and what your body says. That's it.
Right. And you talk about in chapter 6, what's at risk. You talk about this is so much more than mitigating hot
Oh,
flashes. This is
yeah.
so much more than mitigating a dry vagina. This is so much more. By the way, I love that you say your vagina should not talk to you.
I know. Well, I say your body talks to you. Your body talks to you. And the way your vagina talks has a very limited vocabulary. And it's this simple. You should never know you have a vagina, period. If you know you have a vagina, it's not happy. It's true.
It's very true. It's very true. The good thing is there were remedies for that too.
There's absolutely. There's a way to get everything accomplished. You just have to know what your comfort zone is, what you wish to do, and we can do it.
Right.
Okay, but it doesn't help to shoot in the dark, having no idea what anything can do, listening to somebody or falling prey to a marketer, and wasting your time trying something that was completely incapable of doing what you wanted to do. That's what I try to prevent. I don't want you wasting your time with something that
Yeah.
was never going to work for you.
And you're thinking long term, bones, heart, brain.
Yeah,
Bones, heart, brain.
the
And
rest
yes,
of your life.
enjoying life in midlife, having a great sex life in midlife, not
Mhm.
sweating to death in midlife,
Exactly.
all the other things are a part of the equation too, but you're thinking the long game.
Well, I think the rest of your life should be the best of your life. And if you really think about it, you have more control over your hormones at menopause than you ever have. You've lived your
Mm,
whole life on a hormone roller coaster. It hasn't been that great.
sure.
But now you have the choice of deciding what you want and making it happen. So I think that's pretty wonderful.
I think it's pretty awesome actually. And you put the woman in the driver's seat. You're saying in chapter
Absolutely.
7 the game is yours. So you talk
Exactly.
about research studies, how they
Mhm.
apply to you or maybe don't apply to you. You talk about
Exactly.
exercise during menopause,
Yeah.
vitamins, minerals, supplements. You want to elaborate on those?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is that, you get these research studies and they may or may not have anything to do with affecting how you manage your menopause. And one
Mhm.
of the things you have to know is, well, who did they study? Well, they certainly didn't study you. Well,
Mm.
you only care about you. So they studied a bunch of other people with other problems, and you're going to manage your menopause according to that. I mean, if they studied women who fit your profile, that's different. But you have to know how to assess a study in order to use it as your guide. And the truth is, for most people, a study is just one piece of a puzzle that is 5,000 pieces large. And
Mm.
so never use a single study for anything, because
That's good.
you can design a
That's
study to
good.
show anything. In science, you can design a study to show anything you want. It's just all about the study design. And you just make it so that you're gonna get the results you want, which is part of what happened with the WHI study 23 years
Right.
ago that got us into the situation in the first place. And when you learn that, when you learn, "Wait a minute, this study was flawed from the start," it makes you
Mhm.
kinda go, "What in the world?" Well,
Yeah.
that's the way our world works. I mean, they follow the money.
Yep, they sure do, and I also blame the media for its role in that as well, because
Yeah,
it made it spread like wildfire and
exactly.
incited fear, and now we're back to fear again, which we're also back to your point again.
Yeah,
Listen to your own
exactly.
body. Your
Yeah,
own body tells you everything.
it doesn't lie. And
Yeah,
here's the other thing, your body doesn't care what you think.
right,
And when I'm talking with women, I say, "Do you think my hair cares if I heard that straight hair is better and I found
mm,
thousands of studies to prove it?" I mean,
right.
y y
You're yeah, exactly.
and that's how that's how your body's gonna be. Your body's not gonna
Mhm.
care that this article said that and that your girlfriend said that and that you prefer this and you believe in that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you know how much is right? Let's talk about dosages. There are different I do the patch, and it comes in like 0.025,
Mhm.
5, 7.5, 1. How do you figure out how to dial in? And is it enough? Is what the pharmaceutical companies provide, is that even enough? Because when I saw your analogy of the little dropper of what I'm taking, because it's a dropper and I used to have a bucket, how do I know what I'm taking is actually enough?
Well, you have to start somewhere.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, your doctor has guidelines that literally say lowest dosage, shortest
Possible.
time, which is
Yep.
insane, but that's what they probably what they can do. I tell women, listen, you can start anywhere. And if you're changing dosage, you can do one of two things. You can creep or you can leap.
Mm.
Creeping means you start with a tiny dosage and you work your way up. Now, that's fine if you feel like you want to try to get used to it, but you need to realize that the dosage that's going to be the lowest possible dosage that can begin to protect your heart, brain, and bones is about halfway. Manufacturers make HRT products in 2.5 to 10 micrograms if I put all hormones on a scale that
Sure.
includes all of them. 2.5 to 10. So 10 is the highest dosage a manufacturer will make, but that doesn't mean it's the highest dosage you can take. Okay. The dosage that is the lowest dosage that can begin to protect your brain, maybe, is halfway, 5. Okay. If you're taking 5 and you still have symptoms of estrogen deficiency, I guarantee you're not protecting your heart, brain, and bones.
Mhm.
Sorry, but it's easier to alleviate symptoms than prevent diseases.
Yeah.
So there you have that message right there. And then if you say, okay, I want to take more, you can creep or you can leap. You can creep up to 0.75.
Mhm.
And then you do another experiment. So you do an experiment for 2 months to see what does your body say.
Right.
And if you say, "Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. I feel wonderful," then you rely on your bone density and your lipid studies to
Mhm.
make sure that you're accomplishing all your long-term goals. Okay? And if you're not, then you can creep or leap again. Alternatively, you can just leap double. Okay? And this may not be enough.
Hmm.
Women are not robots. There's nothing that says just because that's the highest dosage of manufacturer. There are women who need double this.
How do you know? Is that from blood or how you feel or both?
Symptoms, lipid studies, cholesterol, and
Mhm.
bone density. So if you were taking this dosage and you were still losing bone, it would not be enough for you.
Mm.
Sorry, but your body has spoken. Okay. So you use your cholesterol and your bone density. Those are the labs you use. You do not use sex hormone labs because we already know where your sex hormones are supposed to be. They're supposed to be 0.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
There's no way to have a lab test that has normal values when by definition the hormones are gone.
Mhm. And when you say cholesterol, a lot of people, say, well, the overall number isn't really the number, right? Is it more LDL, HDL, lipids,
In the case
triglycerides?
of menopause, it's the ratio between the total and the HDL, which is the good one.
Right.
So we don't care if you have a lot of cholesterol as long as most of it's the good kind.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so that's what we care about, the ratio. And if the ratio is below 4, you do not have a high risk of a heart attack. If your ratio is above 4, you need to do everything you can to get lower because
Mm.
that would say that you're starting to clog your arteries.
Got it.
Yeah.
Good, 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 good. I really want to get to our viewer questions.
Okay.
So you've got sweats and other small stuff, and big game hunting. So, how to recognize the symptoms. You talk about the importance of a DEXA scan, how to
Yeah.
replace lost bone. Talk about right now. You scroll on social media. There's this huge trend right now of menopausal women in the gym kind of doing old school 80s style weightlifting. That's like become the thing. I'm always weary of trends because, again, to your
Yeah.
point, every woman's different and how her body's going to respond to
Yes.
certain things. Clearly, we need to be doing weight bearing exercises, but
Yeah.
what is your definition of the right type of movement at this age look like?
Well, again, you listen to your body because your body will tell you what's right for you. If you're getting hurt, you're doing the wrong thing.
Mhm.
Okay. The first rule number 1, you're not allowed to get hurt. And secondly, you have to do something that you like and that you will continue doing. Okay. So doing something is better than nothing. But the
Right.
biggest problem that I see with the whole bone topic is that your bone health consists of 2 things: quantity
Mhm.
and quality. Bone quantity is 70% of your bone health.
Mhm.
Bone quality is 30% of your bone health. Your diet, your exercise, your vitamin D, and your calcium are all about bone quality.
Mhm.
And everyone's saying that if you do this, you can fix this. And that is not true.
Interesting.
That is not true at all. You can have the highest quality bone in the world, but if you don't have enough of it, you are not going to fix this.
Right.
Okay, so the distinction between quantity and quality is something that I pound into people because nobody else is mentioning it at all. In fact, everywhere else you look, they'll start the sentence talking about bone quantity and they will finish the sentence talking about bone quality. And it drives me up the wall because this is what's making women do the wrong things. They think, okay, if I go to the gym and hurt myself doing these weights, I can build bone. You're not going to build bone. You are going to strengthen your bone. And that's a good thing, but it's only 30% of your bone health. And if you've lost bone, that's about estrogen. I'm sorry, but don't try to fix you've got to know what each category is because you're going to be really disappointed if you do everything right for your bone and you still fracture. These fractures will cripple you for the rest of your life. I get tons of health nuts in my consultations, and they come to me in tears because they went and got a bone density test and they find out that they're in osteoporosis land. And they say, how did this happen to me? And I said, well, it happened because food is food, exercise is exercise, and a hormone is a hormone, and they will not do each other's jobs. And you thought that your food and your exercise could do enough and they should not have been in this position. If they had only known that there's more to it than food and exercise, they would have never lost all that bone. But no one told them.
Right. Right. And that's the long game that we're talking about here when it comes to HRT, which also plays very, very well into listener and viewer questions. And I want to get into these. Like I said, the biggest one seems to be at a certain age, can I? So here are a couple. Are there benefits to beginning HRT after menopause has begun? I'm 10 years in. And then another one says, can hormone therapy be started for someone 14 years after menopause? So I think a lot of women feel like they missed the boat and they're wondering, hey, can I jump on?
Well, I do consultations for these because each one's different. But here's the bottom line. We always want to maximize your benefits and minimize your risks. That's the name of the game. So it all depends on your benefits and your risks. So let's say a woman is 15 years past her last menstrual period, has never seen estrogen since, and she's completely healthy and doesn't have anything at all worrisome. There's no reason she shouldn't start HRT. She has much more benefit, no risk. Okay, let's say a woman is same situation, 15 years in, and she is morbidly obese. She's had a heart attack. She's had 3 blood clots. Okay, that's a different story. Okay, benefit risk. And so everyone's situation is different, and this is what has to be tailored to the individual. So nobody can answer this generally for someone, but there is no time when it's too late as long as you are comfortable with your benefits and risks. And you are the one who gets to assign the weights to these benefits and risks. I mean, because if you're comfortable doing something, even though it's risky, I mean, some people jump out of airplanes. I mean, people have different risk tolerances. So once you understand what your benefits and risks are, you can decide what you want. But once you decide what you want, you have to go find someone who will do it. And you have to be dogmatic. You have to be sure of yourself. I tell women who have consultations with me, I say, I don't ever want you to ever ask anyone else what to do ever again. I am going to give you an education where you never, ever have to ask anybody else what to do. Because when you ask other people what to do, it's because you don't know how to make your own decisions.
Right.
But when you are armed with an education, you don't need other people's opinion.
One thing that I loved about what you wrote in How to Win About Menopause, and to your point, once you feel educated and you have decided, you even talk about telling your doctor, and here's the problem too. Lawsuits and medical practices pay in those legal fees, right? For malpractice. You're even suggesting for a woman to say, look, I'm aware of the benefit risk ratio here, and I am willing to sign a waiver releasing you of any liability for prescribing these things for me.
Absolutely. You see, here's what happened. When the WHI came out, women were terrorized and they flushed their HRT down the drain. It was the flush heard around the world, literally.
That's right.
Okay. And when that happened, doctors said, oh my God, we don't want to get sued. And they changed all the literally turned every guideline upside down. It went from give all women HRT at a dosage that will prevent the diseases for the rest of their lives to Don't give any HRT unless it's lowest dosage, limit the dosage, and don't worry about the diseases. Just tell them it's for symptoms only. Literally flipped it all upside down, all because they were doing what is in their legal best interest instead of what's in their medical best interest. Okay, this is what happened. And this is still running the show today. And I tell women, I say, I have a medical degree and a law degree. I'm telling you how it works firsthand in terms of what happened here. And so your doctor is literally saying, I'm going to do what's best for me, and I'm not taking a chance on this becoming a lawsuit. So the reason you can have any plastic surgery you want is because you pay for it.
And you sign the liability.
And you sign the, okay, well, guess what? When you start saying I'll pay for it and I'll sign a consent form, you can have anything you want. Okay, so you have to know how to use your leverage to get what you want. And the key is make them comfortable. They're doing what's comfortable for them. You do what's comfortable for you, but find a way to make it work.
That's
but
good
know
stuff.
What you want. And this, the first thing you have to do is be able to know what you want, because if you're wishy-washy, no one's going to help you.
Right, exactly. Good. Great. We talked about this earlier. A woman says, I'm 56 and taking HRT. How long can one stay on it?
As long as you want.
Yeah. I mean, my mom had a patch on her until her last day.
Here's what I would say. How long would you take your insulin?
Right.
How long would you take? Okay. Does it make sense that one day you're going to stop and then you know what's going to happen? All your symptoms are going to come back and you're going to live the rest of your life with a hormone deficiency and you're going to get on the road to the diseases. That's what's going to happen. And if that's okay with you, then stop whenever you want, because that is what's going to happen. But don't be surprised when it happens. Okay. So you could take it as long as you want.
Right. How do I know when it's time to try HRT? I'm 47 and symptoms are now worsening.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time. And the younger you are, the more you need, generally speaking. And the reason is the younger you are, the more recently you had a bucket.
The bucket.
Okay. So you had a bucket. Your perimenopause is when the bucket goes to a water bottle. Birth control that contains both estrogen and progestin give your body a glass full of estrogen. And HRT for menopause give your body drops. And this are exactly the same thing, but most doctors don't know that. This is 2.5 to 10 micrograms of estrogen. This is 10 to 35. It's all one big hierarchy.
Wow.
So perimenopausal women who are still having periods or not really sure, but their life is starting to fall apart, they do much better with this than they do with this. Because with this, they'd have to creep, and it would be like what works for them here will not work for them here. What works for them here they'll be just chasing. Whereas birth control will bridge this gap and make it so that they don't have to worry about constantly having to reconfigure their HRT. So again, you can choose how you want to do it, but it makes a lot more sense to just get a decent dosage with birth control early on, and stay on that as long as your benefits outweigh your risks.
Right.
And then buy yourself time finding the doctor, where one of your questions for speed dating or speed doctoring is how and when will we transition from this to this? If your doctor says, well, I just take everyone off of this at 55 and slap them right onto here, well, you know what's going to happen. But if your doctor says, well, we will listen to your body and adjust your dosage and gradually, that's going to be much more. Again, all of this is common sense. None of this is mysterious.
What's the reason in switching a woman off of birth control and onto traditional HRT management?
Benefit versus risk. As you age, your risks for everything increase. So as long as your risks are low and you are happy with your hormones and they're doing the job, why change anything? Why don't dissect a rose? But if your risks are increasing for whatever reason, it's probably time to start segueing from one to the other, just because it makes sense. Everything you want to do always is have as much benefit as you can and as little risk as you can.
Got it. Yeah. This next question is, any natural remedies for painful sex after menopause?
Define the word natural.
Yeah, I know. I knew that was what you were going to say.
Okay, so here's the truth about painful sex. Your vagina has 3 qualities that make it a vagina. 3 things. Number 1, the vaginal wall is very, very thick, like this athletic sock. Thick. Number 2, your vaginal wall is very, very wrinkled, all scrunched up. And number 3, your vaginal wall is very lubricated. Okay? All 3 of these things are 100% due to estradiol.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason your vagina is a vagina. When you lose your estradiol at menopause, all 3 of these qualities disappear. The thick wall goes to a very thin wall that tears.
Mm-hmm.
All
That's
the
where the pain's
wrinkles
coming in.
disappear,
Mm-hmm.
and it's dry, dry, dry. And what's really happening is your vagina is shrinking, literally. Okay. Alzheimer's is where your brain is shrinking. I mean, the whole point is all these things shrink and dry up. Okay, this is estradiol's job to prevent this from happening. So the only thing that's really going to save your vagina is estradiol. And luckily, they make vaginal, local estradiol products that go nowhere and do nothing else. Anyone can take them. There
Mm-hmm.
are no risks, zero risk, and they can save your vagina.
Right.
There's
Aren't they
no
like little suppositories? Like
well,
vaginal
there's 3 options. You can use a cream.
Okay.
You can use an insert, which you're referring to, that can be either a suppository or a little pill
Okay.
on an inserter.
Yep.
Or there's a vaginal ring called the E or S string.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 of these are nothing but estradiol, but they're made with huge molecules of estradiol that are too
Mm-hmm.
big to get in your bloodstream. They do not go anywhere. They have zero risk, and they are safe for anybody. So you can save your vagina. No woman should lose her vagina, whether she wants to use it or not. I mean, the whole point is you're losing a body part that
Right. That's important. That's
it's important.
important to our relationships and
Exactly.
how we physically connect,
Exactly.
to the person in our life that we love,
Well,
So don't
but losing it is painful too. I mean,
Yes.
women don't just have pain during sex. They have pain when they're sitting. They have pain when they're trying to bike. They're uncomfortable all the time.
Mm,
It's itchy, burny, dry,
right.
uncomfortable, painful. It's horrible.
To your point, we should not be hearing from our vaginas, and
You
good
should not.
thing that there are so many, to your point,
Mhm.
remedies just for this specific area alone, even
Exactly.
for the woman who might be concerned about anything else or present risk factors for anything
Exactly.
else.
And
So,
vaginal moisturizers just moisturize the vagina. They're not going to save it. And a
yeah.
vaginal lubricant is just for sex. So
Mhm.
there really isn't anything else that'll do the same thing that estradiol will do.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, and vaginal lasers are just frying your dry vagina, which is not going to make it better. I'm
You're
sorry,
not a
but
fan, clearly.
well, I mean, it's one of those things where it's a big moneymaker.
Mhm.
It's a huge moneymaker, but it doesn't do what you're trying to do.
Right. So
So
don't spend crazy money on
it's
stuff
very
when you could
expensive.
basically get a
Yeah,
pharmaceutical
yeah,
prescription
yeah.
and insert. I know this one's going to get your goat. What are your thoughts on topical transdermal BHRT versus oral hormones?
Well, that depends on the person. And
Mhm.
the only difference, really, in terms of risk, is that any hormone, whether it's estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone, that goes in your mouth has to get into your digestive tract in order to
Mhm.
get to your bloodstream.
Right.
And part of your digestive tract is your liver. And in your liver, that has to be broken down. And there's a slightly increased risk of blood clots.
Mhm.
But to decide whether or not that's important to you, you have to know what are the risk factors for a blood clot. And most
Mm.
women don't know what they are. The biggest risk factor in the world for a blood clot is pregnancy. Nobody worries about it then. The second biggest risk in the world for a blood clot is a genetic mutation for a blood clot. The third biggest risk is a previous blood clot. The fourth is morbid obesity. The fifth is immobility. And the sixth is smoking. And
Mm.
a lot of women who are worried about blood clots don't have any of these things. And I go, well, you don't really have to put that in your equation unless you just want to. So I always say worry about the things that pertain to you, not the things that don't.
Mm. That's
You
good.
know?
Question, and yeah, she says, for a woman who cannot take HRT, what can we do to cope with menopause?
Oh, you can use diet, lifestyle, vitamins, minerals, herbs, supplements, non-hormonal medication. There are many,
Mhm.
many things. And what you will do is you'll be taking different things for each symptom
Mm.
or disease prevention, and you'll end up doing 30 or 40 things instead of the one thing that is at the root of all of them. But there are many options. You just have to do more, you know.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's all encompassing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's food, it's movement, it's rest,
Everything.
it's lowering cortisol levels,
It
it's,
is.
bringing herbs and I guess, certain things that can help, but never to the
Exactly.
level of
Exactly.
estrogen. And so there has to be that acknowledgement and awareness of that, right?
Yeah, and willpower. I mean, you've gotta be
Yeah.
committed to doing what you need to do to feel your best.
Mhm. True.
Everything matters, but, you get more bang for your buck if you just replace the missing hormone,
Yeah. Most
you know?
certainly. A woman asks, turning 40, how do I know my hormones are working? Hypothyroidism at play. That's a good question. We haven't talked about
Yeah,
thyroid.
yeah. Thyroid is easy to check. But
Mhm.
the key is go to an endocrinologist. Do not use any other kind of physician. Okay, and the great thing about thyroid hormone is that you never run out of it normally.
Mhm.
Okay, we don't outlive our thyroid like we outlive our ovaries. So, with thyroid, there's always a lab test that shows you the normal. Always. And all you have to do is find out what are your labs and are they normal, but get a full thyroid panel. You know, the healthcare system is really not a healthcare system, it's a disease care system.
Mhm.
I mean, we
Agreed.
MDs are repairmen, we learn how to fix you once you're broken. So the whole system is basically saying we're not spending our money on you unless you're already broken. So what they'll do normally is they'll do one test called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And if it's normal, they won't do the others. Well, you
Right.
need to demand the whole panel because
You're
just because
talking
it's
T3, T4.
T3, T4, you want all the antibodies, you want everything because you
Mhm.
have to make sure you've checked everything and demand it.
Mhm.
And that if you do that and you do it with an endocrinologist, knowing whether or not you have a thyroid problem and fixing it is simple, very simple. So that should not trip anybody up as long as you're in the hands of the right person. What you don't want is to go to someone in the health care industry
Mm.
who doesn't have an education on this stuff, who tells you something's wrong with your thyroid, and they aren't qualified to tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I was, diagnosed in my late 30s with hypothyroidism with the proper testing that you were
Yeah,
talking about, and
yeah,
I've done compounded thyroid ever
yeah.
since, and I have
You're
felt
wonderful.
wonderful ever
Yes,
since, and I'm
yes,
grateful for that diagnosis because I know what it feels like, having that
absolutely.
hormone out of balance too, and
Mhm.
it stinks. Okay, I hear this one a lot, Barbie. How do you
Mhm.
get rid of weight while in menopause? It seems impossible.
Well, here's the thing. One of the symptoms of estrogen deficiency is weight gain,
Mhm.
period. So when you start losing your estrogen, your body says, "Oh my gosh, I'm under threat." Remember, we aren't supposed to outlive our ovaries. We're supposed to die.
Mm.
So when your body starts losing this hormone, your body, your metabolic design is from primitive ancestor times. And so your body thinks it's threatened in some way. So your body does what we call survival mode. And one of the things about survival mode is your metabolism slows down. And another thing about survival mode is you hold on to fat mostly in your midsection. So
Correct.
woman after woman after woman will say, I just don't understand it. My
Mhm.
diet and exercise are the same or even better than they ever were. And I'm just putting on weight. I can't control it. It's all going to my midsection. I hear it from everybody. And it's because your body's doing what it was programmed to do.
Hmm.
But again, if you have an education and you know that that's going to happen, be prepared and you're aware of it, you can prevent it, but it's so much harder to reverse it.
Yeah.
So much harder. So your body does not want to let it go because, again, your body's in that mode of, I've got to survive. And so, yeah, that perimenopausal time is when women put on so much weight, and then they've got so much they don't know what to do with it. I mean,
Mhm. And it's a harder fight, and what used to work in the past
exactly,
doesn't work in the present, and
exactly,
we're now back to that multi-pronged approach,
exactly.
estrogen, lifestyle,
Yeah.
lifestyle, lifestyle. I mean,
Yep.
you have to be vigilant, and you
Oh,
and
you
I are
do.
both very strong proponents of that.
We are. And I think I think menopause is a time when you should put yourself first. I mean,
Mhm.
the typical woman spends most of her adult life taking care of everyone else and putting herself last. And
Right.
I really think menopause is that wake up call when it's your turn.
Mhm.
Okay? Put yourself first, decide that you're going to really take care of yourself and let it be a great thing. Let it be a
Mm,
wonderful thing that you become a little more selfish and caring for your own well-being, because the truth is nobody is gonna take care of you as well as you take care of yourself.
right.
It's not gonna happen.
Right, and you can't be good for anybody else if you're not good for
Yeah.
you, so
It's
it
like
has a ripple effect too.
Well, it's like when you're on an airplane and they say, "Put the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping others." I mean, it's the same principle. You have to take care of yourself if you wanna be of use to anybody.
Right. This next one is it okay to take progesterone and use an estrogen patch after a total hysterectomy?
You can. The thing
Okay.
to understand is that progesterone is the hormone in support of pregnancy. Pro means in support of,
Okay.
gest means gestation, and own means hormone. So the
Mm.
only reason mama bear produces
Mhm.
progesterone is to protect baby bear in utero. That's really the only reason we produce it. Okay. The only reason we take progesterone at menopause is because progesterone prevents uterine cancer. Okay, so if
Okay.
you don't have a uterus, you don't need progesterone.
Right.
Estrogen thickens the lining in your uterus. Progesterone thins it, sheds it.
Mm.
So this is why women with a uterus have to find a balance and take both of them. But
Got it.
women without a uterus don't have to take progesterone, but if they want it, they can take it. It's just they don't need it.
Okay, good to know. Another one was asking about what to do when labial folds crack, skin breaks, not from activity. She says, I'm a breast cancer survivor, but you address that in,
Yeah.
again, you would guide her to those estrogens, right?
I would say number 1, get a biopsy.
Mm,
Always get a biopsy. She could have lichen sclerosis, lichen she could all have get a biopsy. Demand a biopsy. Don't let anyone start trying to treat what they think it might be. And they will do this. They will say, "Well, let's try this, let's try that." You say, "No, no, 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 biopsy." Okay.
mhm.
After you have a biopsy, then if it's nothing but dry skin, if it's just estrogen deficiency, fine. But it could be something completely different.
Mm. And you
So
don't know till you know.
biopsy, biopsy, biopsy.
Wow.
Always, always, always demand a biopsy.
Okay, good. Good stuff, Barbie. This woman's asking, how do I reduce cortisol and midsection fat after taking prednisone, which
Yeah,
is the steroid?
yeah. Well, prednisone causes weight gain. I mean, it's a setup for a
Mm,
difficult reversal. That's going to take diet. It's
mm,
going to take exercise. It's going to take pretty much everything,
yeah.
and it's gonna be slower weight loss.
Mm.
Just
And the
I
reason that a woman would be on prolonged prednisone would be?
many
Mhm.
reasons. Sometimes it's just something temporary. Sometimes it's something permanent. But the whole point is prednisone causes that puffy weight gain.
Yes.
And sometimes prednisone's the only option for what you have, that you need it for, but you need to know it's horrible for weight gain.
Yeah. Okay, good. And then the last one was, and you already touched on this, but any other options if sensitive to HRT, lowest dose causes swollen, painful breasts, high risk. I'm not quite sure what she means by high risk of estrogen sensitivity,
Well,
maybe?
I have women who think that breast tenderness means a high risk of breast cancer. Okay, now that's
Let's
that's not
differentiate.
that's not
Yeah,
accurate. Okay, think about it. The entire time you had your premenopausal menstrual cycles, you had breast tenderness probably every month.
sure.
When you got okay, you've been having breast tenderness off and on your whole life.
Mhm.
You never thought it was breast cancer then, and it ain't breast cancer now. Okay.
Mhm.
So breast tenderness is something that is common in response to both estrogen and progesterone. Nothing's new, but it doesn't mean cancer. And breast cancer doesn't produce breast tenderness. So
Right.
if you've got enough estrogen on board to meet all your goals and your breasts hurt, you have to decide, well, are you going to live with the breast tenderness, or are you going to forfeit your goals to get rid of
Mm.
the breast tenderness? It sometimes you just have to make a decision.
Sure. And is there anything we can take or do to reduce breast tenderness? Any supplement?
Not that I know of.
Interesting, right?
Well, your breasts have estrogen and progesterone receptors. That's how you grew breasts. That's how you breastfeed. They're supposed to be there. They're gonna
Mhm.
respond to estrogen and progesterone. I mean, it's what they're supposed to do. So it's kind of like they're doing their job.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't complain.
Well, yeah.
Barbie, this has been, my goodness, so amazing, insightful, thought provoking. I just,
It's a lot of
I could
stuff.
talk to you for hours upon hours on end. I'm so grateful to have you. I'm so
Oh,
grateful for the new download, your book. It's an ebook and it's How to Win at
yeah.
Menopause, a guide to raising and winning your game your way. And I love how you just literally always put it in the woman's hands. This is
Yeah,
your life and your menopause,
yeah,
and only you should be running the show.
exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
wonderful.
Dominique. You have been so pivotal and instrumental in everything I've
Mm.
done, and I always tell people what you did. I always tell them, you thank Dominique because I'm here because of you, and it's I just love every minute of it.
I know you do, and I'm so grateful that it was a seed that you decided to let take root, and that it speaks to you in such a beautiful and profound way that you get to do what you love in a way that serves not just a local community, but a global community, and that is
Yeah,
huge, huge
yeah,
impact, and I just want everybody to know who's listening and watching, we will link you, all of your sites, your website, your social platforms. We will let people know how to find you as well as a link to your new book. I want people, again, it's just about get the information and make the
it's
best choices for yourself. I'm so glad that you were a pioneer. And there are
mhm,
so many others who are spreading the word because
yeah,
it needs to get out there and it can't be said enough. It just
yeah,
can't.
exactly.
Thank you, Barbie. Till next time.
Thank you.
Oh, my darling Barbie. Thank you. Thank you. So great to have you as always. You can find Barbie anywhere. We've linked her. She's everywhere. She does consultations as well, even if, it's for you maybe more than just following her on social media or reading her book. She does that as well and can help point you in a direction to manage menopause your way and even find a practitioner too. Just grateful for the services that she provides to so many women. It's invaluable, honestly. And so are these conversations. If you felt today's content, and by the way, thank you for sending in your questions. I love to include you. And because we included so many women's questions in this episode, we figured we'd leave out a Dear Dominique because you guys kind of wrote in your personal questions and they got answered. So we'll save that for the next podcast episode. If you enjoy the content, whether you watch on YouTube, which is how Barbie and I started, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it and would like to see more of it. That way, you're just notified in your inbox anytime I release a video, which is always a podcast on Monday and my traditional tried and true YouTube tutorials on Thursday. They've always been there and they're not going away. And if you listen, wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, I always ask if you wouldn't mind, just take the time and rate, review, subscribe, and share Over 50 and Flourishing with those that you know and you love. It's just a wonderful way to let women know that we're out there and trying to provide this kind of content for you. And the bigger we get, the more access we get to some really interesting big people out there. And I'm excited to see what the year holds in terms of guests and content and just having you as a part of the party because that's what this is. This is living our best life in midlife. Have a great week, and I will see you next time.